Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, Appearance of Sri Narada. Shlok 14. Suta Uvacha Dwapare Samanuprapte Trutiye Yugaparyaye Jataha Parasharadyogi Vasavyam Kalaya Hare. Translation. Suta Goswami said, when the second millennium overlapped the third, the great sage Vyasadeva was born to Parashara in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu. Purport. There is a chronological order of the four millenniums, namely Satya, Dwapara, Treta, and Kali, but sometimes there is overlapping. During the regime of Vaivasvat Manu, there was an overlapping of the 28th round of the four millenniums, and the third millennium appeared prior to the second. In that particular millennium, Lord Shri Krishna also descends, and because of this, there was some particular alteration. The mother of the great sage was Satyavati, the daughter of the Vasu, and the father was the great Parashamuni. That is the history of Vyasadeva's birth. Every millennium is divided into three periods, and each period is called a Sandhya. Vyasadeva appeared in the third Sandhya of that particular age. Shlok 15. Sakadachit saraswatya उपस्पृश्य जलं शुचिः विविक्त एक आसीन उदिते रविमंडले. Translation. Once upon a time, he, Vyasadeva, as the sun rose, took his morning ablution in the waters of the Saraswati and sat alone to concentrate. Purport. The river Saraswati is flowing in the Badrikashram area of the Himalayas, so the place indicated here is Samyapras in Badrikashram, where Sri Vyasadeva is residing. Shlok 16. Paravarajnah sa Rushihi Kalena Vyaktaranhansaha Yugadharma Vyatikaram Praptam Bhuvi Yuge Yuge. Translation. The great sage Vyasadeva saw anomalies in the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to unseen forces in the course of time. Purport. The great sages like Vyasadeva are liberated souls, and therefore they can see clearly past and future. Thus, he could see the future anomalies in the Kali age, and accordingly he made arrangement for the people in general so that they can execute a progressive life in this age which is full of darkness. The people in general in this age of Kali are too much interested in matter which is temporary. Because of ignorance, they are unable to evaluate the assets of life and be enlightened in spiritual knowledge. Shlok 17 and 18. Bhautika च भावानां शक्तिहासं च तत्कृतम् अश्रद्धानानिः सत्त्वान् दुर्मेधान् हसितायुषः दुर्भगांश्च जनान् वीक्ष्य मुनिर्दिर्वेण चक्षुषा सर्ववर्णाश्रमाणां यद्धयो हितम् अमोघ दृक्. Translation. The great sage, who was fully equipped in knowledge, could see through his transcendental vision the deterioration of everything material due to the influence of the age. He could also see that the faithless people in general would be reduced in duration of life and would be impatient due to lack of goodness. Thus, he contemplated for the welfare of men in all status and orders of life. Purport. The unmanifested forces of time are so powerful that they reduce all matter to oblivion in due course. In Kali Yuga, the last millennium of a round of the millenniums, the power of all material objects deteriorates by the influence of time. In this age, the duration of the material body of the people in general is much reduced, and so is the memory. The action of matter has also not so much incentive. The land does not produce food grains in the same proportions as it did in other ages. The cow does not give as much milk as it used to give formerly. The production of vegetables and fruits is less than before. As such, all living beings, both men and animals, do not have some shares nourishing food. Due to want of so many necessities of life, naturally the duration of life is reduced, the memory is short, intelligence is meager, mutual dealings are full of hypocrisy, and so on. The great sage Vyasadeva could see this by his transcendental vision, as an astrologer can see the future fate of a man, or an astronomer can foretell the solar and lunar eclipses. Similarly, those who can see through the scriptures and foretell the future of all mankind are called liberated souls. They can see thus due to their sharp vision of spiritual attainment, and all such transcendentalists who are naturally devotees of the Lord are always eager to render welfare service to the people in general. They are the real friends of the people in general, not the so called public leaders who are unable to see what is going to happen 5 minutes ahead. In this age, the people in general, as well as their so called leaders, are all unlucky fellows, faithless in spiritual knowledge and influenced by the age of Kali. They are always disturbed by various diseases. For example, in the present age, there are so many TB patients and TB hospitals, but formerly this was not so because the time was not so unfavorable. These unfortunate men of this age are always reluctant to give a reception to the transcendentalists who are representatives of Srila Vyasadeva and selfless workers, always busy in planning something which may help everyone in all statuses and orders of life. The greatest philanthropists are those transcendentalists who represent the mission of Vyasa, Narad, Madhav, Chaitanya, Rupa, Saraswati, etc. They are all one and the same. The personalities may be different, but the aim of the mission is one and the same, namely to deliver the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. Shlok 19. Chaturhotram karma shuddham prajanam viksha vedikam Vaidyadhyajna santate vedam ekam chaturvidham. Translation. He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which the people's occupations could be purified, and to simplify the process he divided the one Veda into four in order to expand them among men. Purport. Formerly there was only the Veda of the name Yajas, and the four divisions of sacrifices were there specifically mentioned, but to make them more easily performable, the Veda was divided into four divisions of sacrifice just to purify the occupational service of the four orders. Above the four Vedas, namely Ruga, Yajas, Sama, and Atharva, there are the Puranas, the Mahabharata, Samhitas, etc., which are known as the fifth Veda. Sri Vyasadeva and his many disciples were all historical personalities, and they were very kind and sympathetic toward the fallen souls of this age of Kali. As such, the Puranas and Mahabharata were made from related historical facts which explain the teaching of the four Vedas. There is no point in doubting the authority of the Puranas and Mahabharata as parts and parcels of the Vedas. In the Chandogya Upanishad, the Puranas, and Mahabharata, generally known as histories, are mentioned as the fifth Veda, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, that is the way of ascertaining the respective values of the revealed scriptures. Shlok 20 Rukyajuhu Samatharvakhyaha Vedashvatwara Uddhrutaha Itihasa Puranam Chapanchamo Veda Uchyate. Translation: the four divisions of the original sources of knowledge, the Vedas, were made separately, but the historical facts and authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are called the fifth Veda. Shlok 21 Tatra Vedadharaha Pailaha Samago Jaiminihi Kavihi Vaishampayan Eva Eko Nishnato Yajushamuta. Translation: after the Vedas were divided into four divisions, Paila Rishi became the professor of the Rigveda, Jaimini the professor of the Samaveda, and Vaishampayan alone became glorified by the Yajurveda. Purport: the different Vedas were entrusted to different learned scholars for development in various ways. Shlok 22 Atharva Angirasam Asit Sumantu Daruno Munihi Itihas Purananam Pitame Roma Harshanaha. Translation: the Sumantu Muni Agnira, who was very devotedly engaged, was entrusted with the Atharva Veda, and my father Romaharshana was entrusted with the Puranas and historical records. Purport: in the Shruti mantras also it is stated that Angira Muni, who strictly followed the rigid principles of the Atharva Vedas, was the leader of the followers of the Atharva Vedas. Shlok 23 Ta eta Rushayo Vedam Swam Swam Vyasannena Ekadha Shishye Prashishye Shishye Vedaste Shakino Abhavana. Translation: all these learned scholars in their turn rendered their entrusted Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples, and great grand disciples, and thus the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being. Purport: the original source of knowledge is the Vedas. There are no branches of knowledge, either mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of the Vedas. They have simply been developed into different branches. They were originally rendered by great, respectable, and learned professors. In other words, the Vedic knowledge broken into different branches of different disciplic successions has been distributed all over the world. No one therefore can claim independent knowledge beyond the Vedas. Shlok 24 Ta eva Veda Durme Dhairya Dharyante Purushehe Yataha Evam Chakara Bhagwan Vyasaha Krupanavatsalaha. Translation: thus the great sage Vyasadeva, who is very kind to the ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men. Purport: the Veda is one, and the reasons for its divisions in many parts are explained herewith. The seat of all knowledge, or the Veda, is not a subject matter which can easily be understood by any ordinary man. There is a stricture that no one should try to learn the Vedas who is not a qualified Brahman. This stricture has been wrongly interpreted in so many ways. A class of men who claim Brahminical qualification simply by their birth, right in the family of a Brahman, claim that the study of the Vedas is a monopoly of the Brahman caste only. Another section of the people take this as an injustice to other castes who do not happen to take birth in a Brahman family. But both of them are misguided. The Vedas are subjects which had to be explained even to Brahmaji by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the subject matter is understood by persons with exceptional qualities of goodness. Persons who are in the modes of passion and ignorance are unable to understand the subject matter of the Vedas. The ultimate goal of Vedic knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This personality is very rarely understood by those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance. In the Satyuga, everyone was situated in the mode of goodness. Gradually, the mode of goodness declined during the Treta and Dwapar Yugas, and the general mass of people became corrupt. In the present age, the mode of goodness is almost nil, and so for the general mass of people, the kind hearted, powerful sage Sri Vyasadeva divided the Vedas in various ways so that they may be practically followed by less intelligent persons in the modes of passion and ignorance. It is explained in the next shloka as follows. Shlok 25th. Stri Shudra Dvij Bandhunam Trayina Shruti Gochara Karma Shreyase Mudhanam Shreya Evam Bhavedya Iti Bharatam Akhyanam Krupaya Munena Krutam. Translation. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable man to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called by Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. Purport. The friends of the twice born families are those who are born in the families of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the spiritually cultured families, but they themselves are not equal to their forefathers. Such descendants are not recognized as such for want of purificatory achievements. The purificatory activities begin even before the birth of a child, and the seed giving reformatory process is called Garbhadhana Samskara. One who has not undergone such Garbhadhana Samskara or spiritual family planning is not accepted as being of an actual twice born family. The Garbhadhana Samskara is followed by other purificatory processes, out of which the sacred thread ceremony is one. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular samskara, one is rightly called twice born. One birth is calculated during the seed giving samskara, and the second birth is calculated at the time of spiritual initiation. One who has been able to undergo such important samskaras can be called a bona fide twice born. If the father and the mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning and simply beget children out of passion only, their children are called Dvijabandhus. These Dvijabandhus are certainly not as intelligent as the children of the regular twice born families. The Dvijabandhus are classified as Sudras and the woman class who are by nature less intelligent. The Shudras and the woman class who do not have to undergo any samskara save and accept the ceremony of marriage. The less intelligent classes of men, namely women, Shudras, and unqualified sons of the higher caste, are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose of the transcendental Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of the Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore, within this Mahabharata, the summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy, and therefore, the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord Sri Krishna. Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter for study by the spiritual graduates Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord Himself in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and persons who are empowered by Him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. श्लोक 26 एवं प्रवृत्तस्य सदा भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजाः सर्वात्मक एनापि यदा नातुष्यत् हृदयं ततः. Translation: O twice born Brahmanas, still his mind was not satisfied, although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of all people. Purport: Sri Vyasadeva was not satisfied with himself, although he prepared literatures of Vedic value for the all-around welfare of the general mass of people. It was expected that he would be satisfied by all such activities, but ultimately he was not satisfied. Shlok 27 Nate prasiddhad hrudayaha saraswatyastate sucho vitarakayan viviktastha idam cha ovacha dharmavita. Translation: Thus the sage, being dissatisfied at heart, at once began to reflect, because he knew the essence of religion, and he said within himself. Purport: The sage began to search out the cause of not being satisfied at heart. Perfection is never attained until one is satisfied at heart. This satisfaction of heart has to be searched out beyond matter. Shlok 28 and 29 Dhrutavraten hi maya chandansi guravo agrayah manita nirvyalikena gruhitam cha anushasanam bharata vyapadeshena ryamanayarthascha pradarshitah दृश्यते यत्र धर्मादि स्त्रीशूद्रादि भिरप्युतः. Translation: I have, under strict disciplinary vows, unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual master and the altar of sacrifice. I have also abided by the rulings and have shown the import of disciplic cessation through the explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women, Shudras, and others can see the path of religion. Purport: No one can understand the import of the Vedas without having undergone a strict disciplinary vow and disciplic cessation. The Vedas, spiritual masters, and sacrificial fire must be worshipped by the desiring candidate. All these intricacies of Vedic knowledge are systematically presented in the Mahabharata for the understanding of the woman class, laborer class, and the unqualified members of Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishya families. In this age, the Mahabharata is more essential than the original Vedas. Shlok 30 Tathapi vatame dhyeyo yatma cha evatmana vibhuhu asam pana iva bhati brahma varchasya satam. Translation: I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. Purport: Undoubtedly, Srila Vyasadeva was complete in all the details of Vedic achievements. Purification of the living being submerged in matter is made possible by the prescribed activities in the Vedas, but the ultimate achievement is different. Unless it is attained, the living being, even though fully equipped, cannot be situated in the transcendentally normal stage. Srila Vyasadeva appeared to have lost the clue and therefore felt dissatisfaction. Shlok 31 Kim va bhagavata dharmana prayena nirupita ha priyaha paramhansanam ta eva he achyuta priyaha. Translation: This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and the infallible Lord. Purport. The dissatisfaction which was being felt by Srila Vyasadeva is expressed here in his own words. This was felt for the normal condition of the living being in the devotional service of the Lord. Unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied. This defect was felt by him when Narada Muni, his spiritual master, reached him. It is described as follows. Shlok 32. Tasya evam khilam atmanam manymanasya khidyataha krishnasya narado bhyagad ashramam pragutta rutam. Translation. As mentioned before, Narada reached the cottage of Krishna Payan Vyasa on the banks of the Saraswati just as he was regretting his defects. Purport. The vacuum felt by Vyasadeva was not due to his lack of knowledge. Bhagavad Dharma is purely devotional service of the Lord to which the monist has no access. The monist is not counted amongst the Paramhansa, the most perfect of the renounced order of life. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of narrations of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Although Vyasadeva was an empowered divinity, he still felt dissatisfaction because in none of his works were the transcendental activities of the Lord properly explained. The inspiration was infused by Sri Krishna directly in the heart of Vyasadeva, and thus he felt the vacuum as explained above. It is definitely expressed herewith that without transcendental loving service of the Lord, everything is void, but in the transcendental service of the Lord, everything is tangible without any separate attempt at fruitive work or empiric philosophical speculation. Shlok 33. Tam abhidnyaya sahasa pratyuthayagatam munihi pujayamasa vidhivan naradam surapujitam. Translation. At the auspicious arrival of Sri Narada, Sri Vyasadeva got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, the creator. Purport. Vidhi means Brahma, the first created living being. He is the original student as well as professor of the Vedas. He learned it from Sri Krishna and taught Narad first. So Narad is the second Acharya in the line of spiritual disciplic succession. He is the representative of Brahma and therefore he is respected exactly like Brahma, the father of all Vidhis, regulations. Similarly, all other successive disciples in the chain are also equally respected as representatives of the original spiritual master. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the first canto, fourth chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Appearance of Sri Narada.